Hello, everybody. Good evening. Today it is December 23rd, 2025, one of the last Tuesdays that we will be meeting together. I want to tell everyone the safe parameters that I want to read every day, every time we meet. Welcome to my podcast, Dragonfly Discussions. You are welcome to enter your name and location you are from. I am thrilled you are listening, and I hope you enjoy this session together. Also, the safe space parameter reminder. Please use your own safe space parameters amongst the chapters I read, which may arouse emotions or memories of your own. You are welcome to excuse yourself or stay. So I'm not here to, tell you how to stay or feel comfortable. You are just welcome to stay or leave. I'm not worried. This is recorded, and you can always come back here to this channel and watch it another day. So I have a new dress on. I bought a new dress. Yes, I have one of two new dresses that I will be showing, and I'm excited that I was able to buy myself a new dress this year. My job and profession is doing well, which I hope you will join us on December 30th, which is going to be a reflection time of just what has gone on this past year and how we want to just share the gratitude or just reflect, and then ring in the new year as well, 2026. So you're welcome to send me personal messages, either email, Facebook, Instagram, however you feel comfortable, here on YouTube, and I'll get them and I'll share them. Tonight we are going back into chapter 5. I don't know how I'm going to react because chapter 5 is a really hard chapter for me. This is where now my father has been diagnosed with brain cancer, glioblastoma brain cancer, and I'm finishing my last rehab, where I spent a year and a half in Dover, Pennsylvania, and I didn't know all the truth about my dad's condition, but my dad did not want me to know all the truth so that I could succeed. So I couldn't be completely mad, but it was very, very hard to deal with. So we're in chapter 5. We are on page 184. We're at the subchapter, The Light at the Tunnel's End. If I had to choose a year that was most impactful in my life, it would have to be the year 2007. I began my position at a garage door company right away and quickly found my place within the people there. And what I mean by a job right away was I came home from rehab and there was a plan for me. I had a plan for myself and there was a plan for me. And that plan was for me to get a job, get back into school, and begin my life back onto that forward progression of steps that I was born to do, and well, not born to do, but raised to do. And that was what my guidance and my parents, that was what I was going to do, which rightfully so. You need to get a job, right? Sorry. I learned all about garage doors, window panes. Okay, so this was when, let me just catch you up real quick. This is when I got my first job after rehab. And it was at a garage door company in Visalia, which I was excited about. So now I'm talking about my experience at this job. I began my position at the garage door company right away and quickly found my place within the people there. I learned all about garage doors, window panes, and the thickness of gauge metal, hinges, sales, phones, invoices, and customer service. I loved working at a real job again and earning real money. When I got my first paycheck, I didn't even know what to do with it. My grandmother advised me to start saving money. So this has been a long time since I had had a real job earning money that was actually not going to drugs, not fulfilling a habit, and something that I could do something promising with. And so my parents at the time were helping pay rent. So I had the opportunity to save and kind of, you know, do a little bit of normal things, I guess you could say. The rent for a room in her house was $250. And that was really the normal rent space for a room back in the early 2000s. So this is 2007. Now rooms are going for $950. Excuse me, but I paid $950 for a studio apartment, and you should never charge somebody $950 for a freaking room. You are robbing them. And if you fall for something like that as a renter, you are being robbed. The most, at most, I would say, would be renting a room for around $450. Depends on the circumstances. It depends on the dynamics of the situation, but $450 would be like the max, I would say. Still, 2025, 2026, I would have a hard time paying more than $450 for a room. And that would give me, I would hope that would give me bathroom access and kitchen access and all the commodities, you know. So be careful when you get into situations like that. But I was grateful. I was coming out of rehab and my parents were willing to pay for a room, which was out of my grandma's house. And it was $250, which that was getting me geared up for what was ahead. Real life rent. Rent is $600 back then. So the rent was $250 and my parents were paying my cell phone. So I had tremendous support. Not every person coming out of rehab has the support like this from their family. Most people go back into a family that's probably chaotic, that might be still using abusive, just drugs, alcohol, and they probably fall right back into that. But I had the privilege, and I'm not saying white privilege, but I had the opportunity, and I could have destroyed it just like anybody could have destroyed it. But I didn't. I took the opportunity and made something with myself. I had the temptations just like anybody had. So I wasn't any better. My grandmother was just giving, I was at the last straw with everybody. So white or privileged or whatever, I really don't want that to be something to be talked about, because I earned every bit and was humble and did not play that card. So my parents were very happy for me and the progress I was already making in such short months. My zeal to go forward didn't stop there. Although I was terribly concerned about my father's condition, I prayed, I stayed in prayer and continued to tackle my obstacles, things like getting my license and other legal issues. I had a court date in February and wasn't sure how it would go. Completing New Life for Girls program and graduating was similar to serving a 5-year sentence in prison. It really was. It was 2 years versus 5 years, but it was a serious sentence that I had to do and finish. So I was hoping that they would recognize my growth and perhaps reduce my felony charges to misdemeanor charges. So now I'm going before the court. I'm about to ask the same court system that has seen me go in and out of the system, believe that I'm changed, believe that I'm now not going to go back to drugs or commit the crimes. So now I'm here trying one more time to say, hey, I really did finish a 2-year program and I want to face my sentence and get this stuff cleared, and the rest of I had other stuff I had to clear. This was just one step, right? So I really wanted my felony charges to be reduced to misdemeanor charges, because that meant that I didn't have to mark that box on applying for jobs as, yes, I've been a convicted felon. So it was really important to me to try to fight. And the judge initially had given me that opportunity that if I did what I needed to do, I could apply and be granted such things. Now, nowadays, that probably wouldn't fly, but I was granted the opportunity to petition before another judge and see if my felony charges could be dropped to misdemeanor charges, so that I could not have that worry of getting a job, because that felony question changes everything. And people who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. So when I arrived in court, I was very nervous and sat down. My father by my side. My father, yes, he was struggling with his cancer and everything, but he was still walking with his one arm, and he was still supporting me. He had decided to come with me, which was very sweet of him. The judge called my name and I went up to face him, which was not Judge Cisneros, because Judge Cisneros was a female. It wasn't Judge Cisneros that time, but a different one. He paused for a moment, making me even more nervous, and said to me, "Congratulations, young lady," and smiled at me. I was elated at his response and thanked him. Then I requested that if it were possible, my felony charges be reduced to misdemeanor charges, so that if I could gain better employment, as I was seeking to become an animal control officer in Visalia. So I'm already, aware of the serious charges that I'm asking this judge to please consider reducing them to a misdemeanor, so that I can gain better employment. And still to this day, criminals struggle with that. I shouldn't say that, criminals. Sorry. But people who have made offenses, misdemeanor, felony, and if they've done their time or done whatever, they deserve a chance to be recognized, and to be presented before a judge and to be seen and heard and given a chance to reduce that, so that that open door, that is a huge open door of a job prospect that would never happen. You'd be stuck doing other jobs which are still as noble, but you would be limited to that, which, everybody has that opportunity to petition for. Not everybody is granted that, but I was granted that, and so it made a huge impact on my ability to excel. And I would like to say that that is equal across the board. You have to still prove yourself. No matter what color you are, you have to prove yourself worthy to have that, and show that you have a plan ahead, and then be accountable for that, which I did. So I wanted to be an animal control officer, and I had already set all the plan in motion. I had already done the research. I'd already done all the things that I needed to do to get into a job after I left the rehab. I mean, I had stuff already in motion, like a job waiting for me, pretty much. I just needed to take some classes, law enforcement classes, which I needed that felony to be reduced so that I could attend basic laws of arrest, to learn the basic laws of actually the law. It's like the bare minimum start. Um, so, so just like that, I was granted. Like it was a miracle. That's another miracle. I should pen another miracle. There are so many miracles in my book where the judge was like, "Okay, you've proven that. We're going to give you that, and we're going to grant you that permission." So never again did I have to say yes to a felon. That I no longer am a felon. And it was just like that. It was like it was so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. I thanked the judge over and over with tears rolling down my cheeks uncontrollably. The judge then ruled my case closed, which that's also important. Case closed, relieving me from felony probation, and freeing me from all felony charges. So that's huge, right? Huge felony. That allowed me to enter back into society as a new law-abiding citizen. Like I never wanted to not be a law-abiding citizen. My drug addiction just made me do bad things, but I'm not excusing myself. But it was really a moment for me to finally be recognized. Like I got an even playing field. Like y'all, I'm no different than anybody else. Despite my past, I am back on the same playing field. And I knew, you have anybody, any citizen knows their rights to behave. So I was just so excited for my opportunity for a job and for employment and for opportunity. So in March of 2007, I gained my restricted license. So I had lost my license due to all kinds of, I had a DUI accident. I had, bad things, right? I finally getting a restricted license. A restricted license means you're entitled to drive to and from work, to and from your house, to and from your necessary appointments, like maybe doctor, DUI, probation, supermarket, gas station. That is it. Not the friend's house, not the party, not the extracurricular, all that extra activities, boyfriend's house. No, you can't go anywhere. They will track that. So that allowed me to enter back into society as a new law-abiding citizen with a world of opportunities and chances awaiting to be explored. So I'm like hella excited, right? I'm like, oh, my freedom is starting to come back. In March 2007, I gained my restricted license back as well. I had pleaded to the DMV court and told them about the program I had just completed. However, I still had to complete 18 months of DUI school and pay over $1,000 in fines, which now, so that was 2007. Now it's 2025. It is $15,000 to $20,000 now in fines. So if you want to get a DUI, let me just tell you, you're going to pay the consequences heavily, not just financially, but your license and classes. So one drink and drive, is it worth $20,000? They allowed me a restricted license due to having a job and being in school. So I had to prove to them why I needed a restricted license to drive. Having a vehicle would undoubtedly make it easier to maintain. I was thrilled at the outcome and worked hard to save money toward a car that I could buy someday again. So I didn't even have a car yet, but I wanted, at least I was setting up the stepping stones to getting my life back in order, and that first was getting my license. I needed to get my license back in order, and I needed to clean up crap with that court. Not only was I in trouble with federal misdemeanor, but I was in trouble with DMV court. And DMV court is a real thing. And they will take you to court, and you will have to be held before them. And you have to prove that you've finished all these classes. You have to pay a buttload. And so, so I did all the stepping stones before I had a car. But my goal was always to get back on my feet, get an apartment, get a car, get back on my feet like I once was, way before my addiction. Way before my addiction, my parents had set us kids up to have a car, have an apartment, college, graduate, job, all that good stuff, right? But drugs took me away from all of that. So now I'm trying to full circle, start all over again. And here we are. So I was thrilled at the outcome, right? At being able to save for a car and work towards all of those dreams. News about the medication, so now we're going back to my dad. My dad's suffering from brain cancer, right? So at the same time I'm trying to accomplish my dreams, I'm still dealing with this horrible fact that my dad is potentially dying. News about the medication, which was the Avastin, my father was on, and the MRI results came back, which showed that the Avastin medication was somewhat working. It was keeping the tumor at bay from growing any further. We were all excited and hopeful about the news. So my dad went through some major brain surgery, and there was this new advanced stuff going on with glioblastoma out of Stanford University Hospital. So my dad was going back and forth there, being treated also at here at Community Hospital in Fresno for his brain cancer. So there was a lot of big new advances going on with Avastin and glioblastoma brain cancer. So it was almost like my dad was on the cutting edge to what now is kind of interesting. It's kind of got some medication that is making patients live a lot longer. But we were in the beginning stages of glioblastoma and Avastin. But we were grateful to have my dad put on Avastin, because Avastin was a very promising drug that was going to continue his life and keep the tumor from not growing. Okay. So my father was very independent. So even while he still had second surgery and lost the mobility of his right hand and operated and learned to operate with his left hand, he had a lot of affairs to wrap up and deal with. And so he still sat at his desk in the office in the house, and he still maintained all of the things that he felt responsible for in preparation for him passing away, right? I think all of us would do that. I know I would. So my father continued to tend to his business affairs. My stepmother worked mainly from home, yet she was stressed over her job and with a husband who was sick. I continued to spend every weekend with my parents, helping them as much as I could. I worked in the yard for my stepmother and helped her keep the house clean. I continued going to school, and for the first time in a long time, things finally felt good. My father and I played in the pool, and sometimes my niece, Emma, would join us too, which always made my father smile even more. So this was a very fluid time where my dad is like learning his new body with his arm being kind of, you know, disabled, and now he's learning to. And then we would go in the pool because we had a pool at our house that I grew up in, and my dad loved swimming. And so we would swim in the pool, and it would be neat to see him, you know, slowly in the shallow end just walk around. And then my niece, which was my stepbrother's daughter, would join us sometimes, and she would be in the pool, which my father loved even more so, his grandchild, his first grandchild. So it was a really beautiful, beautiful time to be with my dad. Um, I also linked up with my half brother again. So I have a half brother from my birth mother's relations. She had a son from another man who was my half brother. So my birth mother had another child who's my half brother. So I didn't know about him until around his 14th year in life. And then we became close. And so that's what this is about, me relinking up with my half brother, because we are close. We're like siblings, right? We're siblings. He made contact with us when I was a sophomore in high school. However, it was then that we actually saw each other for the first time. His adopted parents allowed my grandmother, Debbie, and me to visit with him in Sacramento, California. So this is us all meeting together for the first time. I was over the moon meeting my first brother, like a sibling. I had a first blood sibling. So I was over the moon about the opportunity to meet him. We met him at a restaurant where he and his adopted family were all waiting for us to meet. So he was originally, he was born with a hole in his heart because he was a crack baby. My birth mother was addicted to crack at the time Tim was born. And so the state took him away, and then he was adopted out to Janice, and Janice allowed him to search for his family, and then finally he found us. So this is me and him. Sorry, I get my memories confused between things, but yes, this is now me just discovering my half brother. And so there had been email communications, there had been phone conversations, there had been a little bit of, arrangements leading up to this. And then we were trying to get Debbie together enough because Debbie was not very well. And Debbie is our shared mother, me and Tim, who's a mess still with her addiction. So we're trying to get all of us together to meet him. So I was over the moon to meet my brother, right? This is my sibling, my only real sibling that I ever have, right? All I have is step siblings. That's not blood. So I have a half brother who's blood. So I was over the moon about the opportunity to meet him. We met him at a restaurant where he and his adopted family, so he had been adopted, were all waiting for us to meet. We went inside the restaurant where we introduced ourselves and hugged each other. I was so excited and sat right by my new half brother, like I did. I sat right by him. I'm like, hey, like, I'm your older sister. Like, this is really too cool. I have to be right next to you. Like, and he didn't shy away. It was really natural. It was really organic. It wasn't aggressive or anything. For once, I had a true blood sibling, and I actually wanted to be a good big sister. Tim, my half brother, had a lot of questions about our birth mother, Debbie. So I answered all of his questions as best as I could. So here we are, He's 13. Oh my God, I would have to have been 23 or so. So he's probably 10 years or something younger than me. And he doesn't know anything about his natural parents. He doesn't know anything about his mom, which is my mom. He doesn't know anything about his dad, which I know about his dad because I met him and I have pictures. And so he's like trying to ask all these questions, right? Like an inquisitive kid who wants to know his natural family who was adopted by a family. So it was really beautiful and it was organic and you had to just let it be, right? I mean, he's gonna have questions. It was so beautiful. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was so beautiful. So, but it was so sad too. Because our birth mother was in this moment that we're all getting together. My birth mother was just laid out. Our birth mother was just laid out. I don't even know. I think she was pilled up and she just couldn't even be a part of the event. And she just laid out on the benches on the seat and we had to just do our own visit and we had to explain that to Tim, like, this is Debbie. This is our mom. It was very hard for me. for me and him, I'm sure. I mean, just all around. Oh my God. So for once I had a blood sibling, right? That was like huge to have a blood sibling. And I didn't want to fill his mind with ugly things. So I told him the truth about her upbringing and past. So I tried to quickly give my new half brother a quick history update of Debbie, our birth mom. I shared with him what Debbie had done to me and how I felt towards her. So all the trauma that I had been through, I tried not to do it too much, but he had already knew, so it wasn't like a surprise, but I didn't like overload him with the horror stories. I shared with him what Debbie had done to me and how I felt toward her. How I was allowing Debbie into my life, but at arm's length at that time. Then he focused his attention on Debbie and tried to get to know his birth mother. So Tim's trying to now visit with his birth mother, try to get to know her, but she's just like the waste of a mother she is. So Debbie was still not sober, and Tim knew that. We all knew that. We all ended the visit after some time, after the park, after lunch. Then we said our goodbyes, and I promised him that I would always be there as his big sister. So it was quite an embarrassing visit, to have a first visit with his birth mom and his foster parents, and he's meeting us, and he's meeting everyone for the first time. And this is what our mutual birth mom behaves as, is a drunk, just sleeping drunk. So I was scared. I was scared I was going to lose him. I was scared that I was not going to, have any contact with him. And so I asked him to remain in touch with me and gave him my phone number. Soon my first semester in college ended, and I was proud of myself for having completed an entire semester of 2 classes with good grades again. So I came back home, got back to my normal life, went back to, school and everything, even though that was pretty traumatic. That was kind of the repertoire of my life. You go through something traumatic and then you perform as if it never happened and you just continue on. So that was my life in the years that I was in my 20s. I maintained myself all the while working a job and going to DUI school at night. I stayed close to God and kept near to Him always. It wasn't easy adjusting to the world after being away for so long and after from civilization. It was a real wake up call. It was a real wake up call. And I can't even imagine what it would be like for people who didn't have a family or a support system or any kind of a pathway forward like I had. It would be 10 times harder. And it was so hard for me knowing that my dad's going to die and all the temptations to just want to use and want to just run and escape and just go back to what's comfortable. And oh my God, it was so hard. It was so hard. And then meeting my half brother, Tim, and then dealing with my birth mother, who was another demon in my life. She still is a demon in my life. She's still alive. And I don't understand it. And she was just so embarrassing and so horrible. And so again, I have to adultify myself and deal with all of this. So it was a lot. It was a lot coming home after rehab. It's a miracle I made it. In June of 2007, I bought a car. So now I'm getting my life back together. I've saved enough money and now I'm ready to get a car, right? With my grandmother's help, who co-signed it for me. Yes, my grandmother co-signed it for me, but I was still responsible for everything, all the payments, the insurance, the maintenance. That was all me. I, of course, had to pay the payments and car insurance. It was the car of my prayers and exactly how I hoped. It wasn't anything fancy, but just a 1998 Pontiac Sunfire. Oh my God, that was such the coolest car to get after rehab. Oh my God. I love that car. But it was black and had a CD player. Remember CD players? And had a sunroof. So I'm a big sunroof person. All my cars have a sunroof. I love sunroofs. My grandmother had a sunroof with a Cadillac sunroof driving us in San Francisco. So I'm like, I have to always have a sunroof if I can. I was thrilled and hugged my grandmother tightly when she was approved. So now I'm approved for a car and I am just out of rehab and getting a car, right? Restricted license. I still have to go to DUI school. I still have to go to all this stuff. But now I'm like one step ahead, right? Like getting my life back together. I was fortunate enough to have a car, a job, a school, and a restricted license. My life was all coming together finally. I followed my grandmother back to her home from the car lot, which was back to Fresno, in my new car, playing the radio with the sunroof open and praising God for all of it. So I had to follow my grandma back to Visalia. So we drove from Visalia, where we lived, all the way to Fresno to CarMax, where we found this little car, and it was a sealed deal. I jumped in the car, and then I followed my grandma in my new car behind her, and I'm like, woo! Grandma, thank you. It was so rad. Oh my God, that was That was so incredible. That was so incredible. And I had the radio loud, just like I still do, and the windows down, the wind in my hair. Um, I had the biggest smile painted on my face as I couldn't believe I was gaining it all back. God was truly blessing my life and giving me back all that I had lost. I continued to work, save my money, pay rent and car payments, car insurance, pay DUI fines, etc. All while my parents still helped with my cell phone bill and rent. Yeah, so they helped. Well, I was starting to pay more rent. Um, I was starting to take on, like, they would pay like maybe 250. I was maybe taking on 100. So I was starting to learn also paying rent, right? It was not easy at all, and I struggled to keep up. My father was slowly changing, and I was still spending every weekend in Fresno with my parents. So I would drive now with my new car, um, which was the norm, basically, without my car. My grandma was taking me, but I was spending every weekend in Fresno. So I would drive 45 minutes from Visalia to Fresno to spend every weekend with my father. I would work Monday through Friday, do school, and then do my homework and all that stuff. And then I would spend the weekend with my father because he was my most important thing. He was my most important thing. That's all I cared about, was spending time with him. I was trying to help my mother, and I even tried to date on and off, but normally nothing panned out. Or not normally, nothing panned out. Having a relationship with a man wasn't as important, though, as much as being with my father was. So, like in any person getting out of rehab, there's that tendency to want to get up in a relationship and hook up, which is the worst thing to do. You do not need to get into a relationship. In fact, you should wait probably about 5 years before you get into a relationship after coming home from a serious rehab and having sobriety. You should give yourself three, at least 3 to 5 years sober without a relationship. Like, I'm telling you, it it is the make or break of your sobriety. Like, I understand 5 is a long time, but 3, it a relationship is not as important. A relationship will come. A relationship will happen. But you need to be stable and strong first before you even entertain any of that stuff. So that's another conversation, but I knew that I needed to not even go there. And I'm still not there. I'm still single because I know I'm still healing from a lot of things and I don't want to get into a relationship. And that's okay. That is the best and most responsible thing. So, okay. All right. So where did I leave off? Okay. Having a relationship with a man, blah blah. Okay. The 4th of July. Oh God, the 4th of July. The 4th of July was my father's favorite holiday. Christmas being second. All of us as a family were going to a Grizzly game to watch a baseball game. So the Grizzlies turned in to be a AAA baseball team here in Fresno, which we built a beautiful stadium, and now there's a ballpark and you can watch AAA baseball. And my dad was a huge sports fan. He loved sports, from football, baseball, Golf. He would watch golf. Not so much tennis, but he loved the Olympics, and that's why I love the Olympics. The Olympics are rad. I love the Olympics. Summer and winter, I will always watch the Olympics. So anyways, they were Grizzly fans, which Grizzlies was our Fresno AAA team name, Grizzlies, Fresno Grizzlies. And so they got like year box ticket type tickets. And so we got good seats and we got like box seats, permissions. And so this was what the 4th of July here at the Grizzlies was about. And then we would watch the fireworks after. We got to the ball game where my family was invited to stay in the sky boxes. So the sky boxes is what I'm talking about, where it's like real fancy and lots of money. And it was probably paid by my stepbrother's wife's family. Where food was catered. Yeah, food was all catered up there, and alcohol, and it's all big, and you get premier seats and views. Private seating was provided. It was very fancy and cozy. Very fancy and cozy. My brother and his wife's family, my stepbrother, this is my stepbrother, not my birth half brother. My stepbrother and his wife's family were also present, along with my adorable niece, Emma. We got my father situated, and I sat next to him as we watched the game. So I was always by my dad's side, like making sure he was comfortable and situated, and whatever he needed, I was like his right-hand man, right? Like me and my dad, you couldn't separate us. The Grizzlies won that night. Woohoo. And the fireworks made my dad smile from ear to ear. Oh my God, I have pictures of my dad smiling of those fireworks, and he loved the fireworks. Like he was a pyro. He was a little bit of a pyro, and he loved setting off fireworks, and he would set off rockets and stuff with my stepbrother, and he would do all these really kind of interesting things with. My dad loved the 4th of July. He shouted at the beauty in the sky as it lit up his face in hues of reds, blues, and yellows from the fireworks. He was so happy that night and full of life. My father was a little bit of a pyromaniac in some ways and absolutely loved fireworks. As I sat there watching him enjoy the sky being lit up, my soul lit up with love for the man who loved me so much. This was the man who never gave up on me, who always believed in me and was fighting for his life. And even then, all he did was smile at the lights and the sky. I was truly in awe of my father's strength and unwavering faith. Soon the fireworks show was over and we had to go back home. I got out of the car and helped my father out too. It was important to let my father do as much for himself as possible and not baby him too much. My dad was a very independent man, and he didn't want you to, cater to him and baby him and like hold him too much. He wanted to be able to get out and walk and, try on his own. It was important to let my father do as much for himself as possible and not baby him too much. So I walked ahead of him. So I would walk ahead of him, right? And kind of give him, normally I would be by his side or behind him, but I decided to walk ahead of him, allowing him to walk on his own with this cane, because he had a cane, into the house. The seconds it took for me to walk away from him, he fell into a bush where a branch punctured his side. My stepmother and I rushed over to him, helping his very heavy body out from the bush. It was very hard, and both of us were scared of the wound, because We took my father inside and laid him down. So we're at 9:51. My mother examined the wound and said it wasn't looking too good. I was so scared because I knew how important it was that he never got sick or injured. But he was injured, and I felt like it was all my fault. I should have been by his side holding onto him. So it was really important. It's really important, anyways, for any cancer patient to not get any kind of cut or abrasion or anything into their body, because their immune system is already compromised and they can't heal as quickly. So, that's kind of like the worst thing that you want to have happen is any kind of like serious major injury or puncture into the person's body. And so it looked like what had happened to my dad was pretty serious. And I held on to a lot of responsibility for letting him go and walk on his own and fall. So I should have been by his side holding on to him. But yet I walked ahead trying to give him his independence, and he ended up falling. I should have never walked away from him. All the couldas, shouldas, and wouldas scrambled through my head as I helped my stepmom tend to his wound. I went to bed crying to God to help my father and forgive me for not holding him up and allowing for something like that to happen. I blamed myself and couldn't shake off the fact that it was all my fault. The next morning, my mother and I took my father to the hospital to be examined. The doctors told us the wound was deep and placed him on antibiotics. My stepmother went to Long's drugstore nearby to fill up the prescription. During the week, my father's condition continued to decline, which my stepmother thought was odd. The wound was not healing, which it should have been. So had he been on antibiotics, the wound would have been healing and, positive things should have been happening with him. So during the week, my father's condition continued to decline, which my mother thought was odd. The wound was not healing, which it should have been. My stepmother took a look at the bottle of antibiotics she was giving to my father and discovered that the pharmacist had given him a muscle relaxer instead of an antibiotic. Yes. The pharmacist misread the prescription and filled it for a muscle relaxer, looking at the history on the chart that my father was on medically, and just assumed it was another muscle relaxer when it should have been an antibiotic. An antibiotic which kills the infection and improves things, not a muscle relaxer that leads to worse situation. So now my stepmother's frantic, right? She's realizing what has just happened. Frantic, she calls the doctor. The doctor told her it was supposed to be an antibiotic. She called the pharmacist at Long's Drugs. This was Long's Drugs. Good old Long's Drugs before CVS. At Long's Drugs then, and told him what had happened. All he could tell her was, sorry. He said that he couldn't read the handwriting on the prescription and assumed it to be a muscle relaxer like the rest of my father's medication. She screamed at him, yelling, "What? You couldn't read the handwriting, so you assumed?" She told him to fix it ASAP because her husband's condition was seriously deteriorating. She demanded him to call the doctor and get the right medication for my father. Like, this was a huge thing that had happened. Huge thing. I was in utter shock. I couldn't believe that all that time we thought my father was healing. He was only slowly getting worse. By the time my mother started administering the antibiotics and trying to get the wound to heal, it was already too late. The muscle relaxant set my father's brain cancer into a worse stage. We had to take him off the Avastin that was healing, or it was curbing the tumor. It was subsiding it. It was working, at least to some degree. So we had to take him off the Avastin so the antibiotics could do their job, because the antibiotics, need to fight the infection and need to get the body back into par. The Avastin is, it's so confusing. The Avastin, yes, is fighting the tumor, but it's hurting the immune system. So we got to protect the immune system now to get him back to healthy level to maybe fight the tumor again. And I guess at this time, the Avastin was starting to show results of not really being productive. So, it was so convoluted. I screamed at Long's Drugs and the pharmacist, vowing to someday go after Long's Drugs for their negligence, and I did. I did do my research. How could a pharmacist not verify the prescription before filling it? Like, that's Pharmacist 101. You don't fill a prescription if you can't read it. If you can't read it, you call the doctor and you verify with the doctor, hey, what is this prescription you're filling? You want me to fill for this patient? You do not assume ass at a you and me. That's what assume means. ASSUME, and ass at a you and me. So never freaking assume. Nobody. Don't ever assume. The right thing is to ask the question and double check, triple check, quadruple check. I don't freaking care. You are a pharmacist. This is like serious. Whatever. How could he not make a simple call to the doctor to verify? All of that would have never happened had Long's Drugs Pharmacy acted ethically and made a simple phone call. One simple phone call could have saved my father from all of it. We never will know. My stepmother and I knew the seriousness of the situation, but my father did ask us. He was still somewhat comprehending, and he asked us not to pursue. Asked us not to focus on it too much. I encouraged her, my stepmother, to focus on taking care of my dad, and so together we worked through the travesty. Soon the fall semester at school was to begin, and I was not excited. I could barely focus on school. I decided to quit and focus on work and helping my stepmother with my father. I'm going to read just another paragraph or so. I know we're past 8 o'clock. Things were more severe with his condition. I continued to stay sober, even though everything in me wanted to have a drink or something to take the pain away. I cried to God as much as possible, yet my flesh still wanted to escape from reality. I was confused about why my father was deteriorating and losing his life, yet I was given a new life. I had a huge problem with that. I wanted more time with him, my dad. I wanted so much time, I wasted so much time on my addiction. How and why was it all happening? All I wanted was my family the way he was before I left. All I wanted was my father to be healthy again and the tumor to be gone. All I wanted was not possible anymore. And my heart began to break. I heard from Mark, which Mark was the boyfriend that I was arrested in back in 2005. We both were heroin addicts, and I decided not to have a relationship with him after I got home. But I was kind of in hearing about him, but I was distant. I heard from Mark when he called me one day. I told him about my father's condition, and he sympathized with me. We talked for hours, and he shared with me that he was finally sober and living in Georgia with his mother, which he remained living in Georgia till the rest of his life. He actually did produce a very happy life for himself in Georgia. I told him how sorry I was for leading him back to heroin and eventually prison, because it was ultimately me that relapsed with the two of us. We were sober, we were doing well, and I was the one that relapsed on us. It wasn't Mark. And I knew the consequences, and slowly he relapsed, and together we then relapsed. So it was all my fault. He told me it was not my fault. And not to blame myself. Oh, God. He told me how much he loved me and still did. I told him how much I loved him too, and how much he meant to me, and thanked him for helping me ultimately. Without meeting Mark, I would have never stepped foot into the very church where New Life for Girls came into my life, which New Life for Girls ultimately led for my life becoming to where it is now. We cried and forgave each other, saying goodbye and promising to keep in touch. It felt good to have such closure. So, yeah, had I not met Mark, and I explained this in earlier chapters, I would have never been introduced to the rehab that got me sober, New Life for Girls. I would have never gone off to Pennsylvania. I would have never been where I'm at now. So, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet along your path. And it's important to never give up. Never give up on yourself if you're struggling. Don't give up. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. But I thank you for being here in this journey. We have so far traveled in 2025 through the chapters of 1 through 5 of Dragonflies and Demons. And we're not done. 5 through 7 is very, very beautiful. And it explains and shares, how I became who I am today. And so I just want you to stay encouraged. No matter what demons you may face, there's always dragonflies surrounding you. And just give yourself a break and know that you're loved. Know that you're not alone. We are going to take a break from chapter reading, and we are going to be celebrating a little reflection next Tuesday, December 30th at 7 p.m. We're going to be doing a reflection of what 2025 meant to you, kind of the events that unfolded in 2025 that affected us, the happy times, the sad times, the just moments of reflection. And then I want to focus on our goals moving forward, because I'm really big into manifestation, the law of attraction, and that we need to be focusing on things we want to do, working on targets, working on goals, working on accomplishments, working on progressive movement forward. And I think that's what keeps us active. That's what keeps us aware. And that's what keeps us alive. And that's what brings us joy and reason to get up out of bed. But I have more reasons than that. I love getting up out of bed. But I'm not going to bore you with too much. I will bore you on the 30th because I'm going to talk. I am actually going to talk more from my own just voice. So it's going to be quite interesting, and I hope that you will leave comments so that I want to share your reflections. Please email me, message me, however you can, on Instagram, Facebook, but please join me. Okay, all right, good night.